Hey, this is the World Advice Channel 2. What I want to talk about today is the problem of human civilization. So, before I get started discussing the problem of human civilization, what I just want to make it clear is that I don't have a problem with the idea of civilization because it has many benefits. It makes our lives more comfortable, and so on and so forth. Compared to living like hunter gatherers, like we humans used to live a long time ago. But at the same time, there is a big problem with it, that I've noticed when it comes to civilization as a whole that needs to be discussed. And I will discuss that problem of civilization, a fundamental problem of civilization, as well as a solution to what can we do to solve this problem of civilization. Okay, so now that I've mentioned that, let's get started. So when it comes to the problem of civilization, the biggest problem, or at least one of the biggest problems of civilization, what is it? The biggest problem with civilization is that it tends to be boring. Okay, when there's at least nothing going on. In other words, it makes our lives too boring because it's too comfortable. Okay, which is one of the biggest problems with civilization. Okay, so when it comes to that, even though I know a lot of people are going to say that's very trivial and stupid and silly, I actually beg to differ. And if anything, I'd actually argue we should take it very, very seriously. The point that maybe, if anything, at least if they were good at anything, the government, they would, if they were able to actually do something, they should actually take it very seriously, okay? Because the truth of the matter is that I've actually noticed this trend throughout history, not even just, from reading history books and all that type of stuff, from descriptions of people, whether it could be people who lived, obviously in different eras of history, whether it could be in the medieval ages, or after the medieval ages, more like, or it could be obviously after the age of exploration, like the age of when the world seems so vast and interesting, like the era when people were still discovering new lands, and people used to sail on wooden ships, all that type of stuff. And of course, let's not forget, of course, about pirates, all that type of stuff, which falls in the category of the age of exploration. To, of course, the Edo period in Japan, after, of course, the Warring States periods ended, when Japan experienced extreme levels of peace and stuff. One common trend you tend to see from descriptions of people who lived during that era, not necessarily, people, making shit up, and even for personal experience, okay, from what I hear people say, is that life when things are actually going well, like it's peaceful, there's no problems and no war, people are actually bored out of their fucking mind, okay? When things go really well, and I mean really, 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 really well, okay? And that's one trend I've noticed consistently throughout history all the time. Whenever you had a great age where there's a lot of chaos and drama and so on and so forth, and it ends, and there's actually no problems, people tend to be kind of bored. And you start having, of course, the worst thing as a result of that, people who kind of start wanting things to happen, which, if you don't know what I mean, people who might wish something bad happens, whether it could be a war, a natural disaster, maybe, if not that, it could be maybe, a bad situation, like, for example, like, maybe, another example could be maybe political turmoil, whatever, they start kind of wanting things to happen, okay? They kind of start wishing maybe something can finally happen so life can feel interesting again, okay? And that is the problem with a civilization, okay? You start having those people when things go very well who want something to happen, which obviously the biggest thing we obviously have to kind of prevent that from happening, and people throughout the ancient world have known this for ages now, such as the Romans and many other civilizations have known this, is that you have to find ways to entertain people. You have to find ways to kind of keep people focused, on different things, whether the sport is violent in nature, like, for that matter. It doesn't necessarily have to be lethal non-lethal, but it could be it could be violent, like boxing, MMA, kickboxing, all that type of stuff. It's violent, but it's not actually going to kill someone. Or it could be obviously something else, like maybe something like a racing sport, whatever, or even plays, which in the modern day equivalent would be, like movies, whatever. You get the point. Like, you come up with things to kind of distract people. Okay, that is the point I'm trying to get across. Entertainment is something people do to distract people, so people don't kind of get bored of life and just pray. Hopefully something happens. Okay, and that is the honest truth of the matter. Okay, and the problem with that is, which of course is the problem, which I say is the problem of civilization, is that people, when they come to actually coming up with ideas to actually make life interesting, they don't do a very good job at it. Even when you look at the history of the world, when there's no drama or no war or something, even when you look at the lives of the British, of the white powerful people in like Europe at the time, specifically the British, of course, who were the most powerful empire of all time, you don't really see anything interesting, even trying not to look at it from a modern lens, that they had to do with their free time. Like, the most I know they play some game known as polo, where you just take like a ball and hit it against wooden sticks or something, or or something like that, or if it's not pole, on a horse or something, and just a few other games that even try not to put like a 21st century perspective on it just seem quite boring. Like, is this really all that there is when you have all this power and you have this great civilization? It just seems boring, and that's kind of the problem I have with civilization, is that when people actually have peace, they don't really do anything, which can cause problems and make people bored and want things to happen, and I know people are going to say, well, we have sports in the world today, but all those sports, to be honest with you, I'm not gonna upfront, I'm not even trying to be biased, are kind of boring to watch, to be quite blunt and honest with you. Okay, so the truth of the matter is, for that very reason, that's what I believe is a problem with civilization, is that it's just boring. It's just boring. Okay, and I'm not saying I want violence to happen. Like, that's kind of the reason why I'm making this video, so we don't have bad things happen, which is why we have entertainment. But what we need to do is we need to have better quality entertainment. Let's keep people distracted. I don't want to live in a world where people are bored as fuck and start wanting or wishing something bad to happen. That's not a world I want to live in, so that's why we have to do something, which of course brings on a solution, what we need to do, okay, to make it more interesting. Okay, well, the best solution I have, even though it's of course is kind of a controversial issue, one of the best things to do, aside from of course having like obviously having things like world events and all that type of stuff, and all that stuff which we have, is first and foremost we need to start having sports that are more enjoyable to watch. Okay, like sports that encourage you to do more tricks. Like basketball is very, very technical, as well as soccer/football, at least the Europeans call it football, and a lot of other sports are kind of boring to watch. So I recommend that people start doing more tricks in them to kind of keep people more interested, and we just come up with more interesting, like, sports for people, new sports that are actually generally very interesting to watch, visually very interesting, not like NASCAR where they're just driving around the same circle over and over again, like something that kind of makes it more interesting and enjoyable, okay, for people to look at things, so people are less likely to kind of want something to happen, if you know what I'm saying, which I think from the video, if you've watched up to this point, you know exactly what I'm trying to get across here, okay, and that is the honest truth, as well as obviously giving the youth more energy. Well, I mean, who already have enough energy, you need to give them more energy, but like the youth who have so much energy, like giving them things to kind of keep themselves occupied, like maybe more investment into fields of like things they can do, whether it could be snowboarding or surfing, maybe different things as well aside from that, like more effort put into sports in general for them to do, so they can afford it, so you can keep people occupied and not people who kind of want something to happen. Okay, and that is the honest truth of the matter, and that is what my point is for the video. This is the biggest problem of civilization, is that it kind of makes life boring because of how efficient it is. You know, there's nothing to kind of keep people occupied, like living in a wilderness where there's constant trauma and war and violence and stuff. Which, even though that's not a good thing, it, let's be honest, you know, it does make things interesting. So the truth of the matter is, what we need to do is obviously find a way to prevent that from happening, so we can continue living in a peaceful world, and as a result, have a have a happy and good future. And that's the truth of the matter. So this is my video. I discussed the problem with civilization, as well as give a solution to what we can do to solve the problem. And this is off to say, and simply put, I'm out. So bye.